It's an encouraging thought that by 2050, a single person will be able to have a conversation like this.
The Biden administration's Department of Homeland Security has admitted to going full 1984 and creating its own Ministry of Truth ahead of the 2022 midterms.
Oh, thought criminal.
Elon Musk just secured his $44 billion Twitter deal, a move which has sent the collective left consciousness screaming at the sky. For, you see, free speech will destroy freedom, democracy, all of humanity, and just in general, life as we know it. But have no fear, because the new Disinformation Governance Board is here to save us all. Keep watching to fill up your 2022 Orwell bingo cards. Hi Liberty fam, and welcome back to the channel. This video today is brought to you with the help and caffeine of the folks over at Blackout Coffee Company, your friendly Florida-based small batch coffee roasters that always support veterans, the Second Amendment, and free speech with no compromises. Check them out at blackoutcoffee.com/libertydoll. Alright folks, this is a story that is developing very quickly after going from a quiet little government hearing to trending on a newly unlocked Twitter, which is a whole other story in and of itself. But this is how it broke and what we know so far. On Wednesday, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas appeared before the House Appropriations Subcommittee to discuss the fiscal 2023 budget for his part of the alphabet soup. Democratic Rep. Lauren Underwood claimed that minority communities specifically have been targeted in alleged misinformation campaigns and asked Mayorkas how DHS planned to address it. He responded by saying that the DHS had recently created a Disinformation Governance Board to, quote, address this threat. He stated the goal of the board is to stop the spread of disinformation. Because, after all, with Twitter falling to Musk, the White House is down one limb and can only rely on Facebook and YouTube going forward.
We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
The board is allegedly designed to rebut human smuggling organizations peddling misinformation to exploit vulnerable migrants for profit, as well as monitoring messages from terrorist or extremist groups. Which, remember, the FBI labels parents at school board meetings as. They are terrorists. But then, a few hours later, Politico reported that Nina Jankowicz would serve as the executive director of this board, which is a big problem and has absolutely nothing to do with stopping human trafficking. And don't give Politico too much credit here, because apparently they didn't think that the news of the US government starting a 1984 or North Korea-style Ministry of Truth was newsworthy enough to get an actual article. The bombshell only got a 3-sentence blurb. So who exactly is Nina Jankowicz, and what is she bringing to the board table, you might ask?
When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious. Whew.
It's just getting some pushback from critics who are saying this person may not be the right choice for a board that is run by the Department of Homeland Security. Can you speak to that at all?
I don't have any information about this individual. I can check on more information about the board. Go ahead.
Double plus good. According to her bio over at the Wilson Center, one of her major projects was working on regulating social media. Credited articles include several pieces on the need for disinformation oversight boards on Facebook, COVID disinformation, and the proclamation that Facebook groups are destroying America. She also wrote a book on fake news and Russian disinformation. Her work with the Ukrainian government entailed, quote, strategic communications under the Fulbright Clinton Fellowship in an effort to strengthen the public sector, aka strengthen the government. So, strengthening government power through strategic communications designed to strengthen government power. You know, that sounds really familiar. I think there's a word for that. It starts with a P. Whew. Anyway, clearly she sounds like the perfect candidate for the job. Her Twitter feed is full of old tweets about the dangers of free speech, dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop, and slamming Twitter's decision not to meddle anymore in the 2020 election. Jack Posobiec has done a lot of digging on this and has found everything from CNN appearances where she claimed that militarized Trump supporters were going to show up in droves at the polls, armed to the teeth, to intimidate voters.
I think there's a general concern about Trump supporters potentially showing up armed to the polls, and these sorts of voter suppression, voter intimidation, that's illegal everywhere.
To claims that the now confirmed Hunter Biden laptop was nothing but a Russian misinformation fairy tale. Her exact words. Nonetheless, Nina followed up her official announcement about her place on the board with another tweet stating that the board's purpose is actually to protect free speech, privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties, proving that the board is kicking off their campaign with Newspeak right away. Digging into her past tweets does reveal quite the colorful history. In this tweet, she simultaneously called the laptop a fairy tale, but also said, "The emails don't need to be altered to be part of an influence campaign." So it seems to be a case of Schrodinger's emails. They were both real, but also fake. Later that day, she wrote, "Back on the laptop from hell, apparently. Biden notes 50 former NatSec officials and 5 former CIA heads that believe the laptop is a Russian influence op. Trump says, Russia, Russia, Russia." Jankowicz is now trying to walk it back and say the tweet was a direct quote from both candidates, and she was merely live tweeting their words during a debate, and that none of the tweets were her own views. But she told the AP just a week before that the laptop held disinformation red flags and was likely a Trump campaign product. Which I guess checks out because it's the Disinformation Board and not the Anti-Disinformation Board. But her past misinformation transgressions go even beyond the Hunter Biden laptop and include all of the left's major talking points post-Trump. She was also a big fan, huge, of the now debunked Steele dossier. You know, the anti-Trump dossier about peeing Russian hookers that was pivotal in the FBI wiretapping his campaign. In August 2020, she tweeted about an appearance Steele made on a podcast about disinformation, urging her followers to check it out. The layers of irony and deception here are just, it's like a layer cake of deliciousness. In December 2017, Lindsey Graham tweeted asking if there was collusion between the DOJ and Fusion GPS to use the democratically funded dossier for political or legal purposes. Jankowicz responded to him claiming the dossier had been funded by Republicans and repeated this lie again in April 2020. The dossier was, of course, run through Fusion GPS, which was in turn hired by the Clinton campaign. She also claimed that the Steele dossier had no influence on the intelligence community. But in 2017, then FBI Director James Comey and his deputy director both fought to include the dossier in their January 2017 assessment on Russian election interference. Later in 2020, she was quoted in several news outlets regarding the Hunter Biden laptop, playing a key role in getting the story labeled as fake news. She falsely claimed there were intelligence reports proving it, and even kept up this lie through March 2021. But it turns out there was no such report and no such information. So, like I said, perfect fit for the job. She's also revealed herself to be an AOC fan, is against authoritarianism when she thinks Trump does it, and dismisses all her critics as merely being male trolls that harass her online because she's a woman. Not gonna lie, wish I'd thought of that one. So, your next question might be, is anyone actually doing anything about this? Well, as Mr. Bill Clinton once eloquently said, it depends on what your definition of is. A few congressmen have sent angry letters or called for Biden to get rid of the board. Senator Hawley asked a series of questions about how the board will work and who put the disinformation Mary Poppins in charge of it, but we know how the government has an excellent track record in answering questions. Hawley also introduced a bill in Congress to dissolve the board and for the DHS to turn over all records regarding it. Unfortunately, the government does a bad job at policing itself, but I guess sometimes life surprises us. So that is it for today's Double Plus Good video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. You know the drill, all the algorithm things. And if you're feeling extra spicy, you can check out the description for other ways to support the channel. Again, as always, thanks for tuning in and helping me to spread the message of liberty. Or I guess disinformation, depending on who you ask.